Cap is wrong. Fight me. Hey everybody, welcome back. Hopefully you're joining us for the second week in a row, or second time in a row. I don't know when these are going to go up. So we just got done watching episode 2, and we have thoughts.
You want my thoughts first?
Well, I know you've seen it, so you have lots of thoughts, but anything to say to kick us off? So that's a no.
No, I kind of want to just hear what you have to say, and then I'll respond.
Okay. Overall, I like how they jump right into it, and it picks up almost immediately, right after the end of the first episode. I like that. That's cool. They don't start earlier and catch you back up, or last time on. I usually hate when that happens, so this is cool that they just got right into it and didn't screw around. I thought it was nice that they focused on finishing the story that they set up in the first episode. Mm-hmm. They didn't really try to introduce anything too new. I mean, they talk about the harvest, but I think they mentioned that in the first episode.
Yeah.
So they just followed up on that, and it's basically like part 2 of the first episode, in my mind. Like, they're one story that's the intro. It just so happens that they chopped it up into 2 parts. I mean, it seems like they literally just chopped it in half. But it works well, and I like that. It's not quite as exciting, I guess, as the first episode, but that's because you're not meeting anybody new or learning about anything new or new concepts. It's just playing out everything that's been set up. But overall, I liked it because it just jumps right in, and you get to just, ride out the rest of that, and I think it works out really well. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so I was going to say one thing about the beginning when Giles is talking about, since the beginning of time, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And he says something along the lines of, despite what popular mythology would tell you.
It wasn't a paradise.
Yeah, it wasn't a paradise. And I did watch the special features on this one, and Joss Whedon did say that him and his writers and producers and everybody were a little worried that they might catch some flack for that, because it's kind of a underhanded dig at religion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he said apparently nobody made a big stink about it and everything.
For once.
Yeah. Well, when David Boreanaz read for Angel, Joss Whedon was not sold on him. He said he had an okay read, but he wasn't sold on him, so he left it up to the ladies in the room, and apparently they all swooned and fawned all over him. So he was like, okay, I guess this is our guy. And obviously he was glad that he made that choice, because Angel turned out to be a pretty good actor, even though his beginnings were rough.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I had a similar kind of thought, not necessarily that he was bad, but that. And it may be the way he's written, but he's very flat.
Yeah.
It's not that he's not interesting. It's just that he shows up and says his lines, and then he goes away, and there's really not much there. There's not much dynamism. He's just kind of there, and then the scene moves on to the next one.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we're not really meant to know a lot about him yet. But I don't know. I definitely hope that they do something more interesting with his character sooner rather than later. Because if they keep dragging him out just like that, I feel like it would get really boring really quickly.
Yeah.
Because I made this comment while we were watching it. Does he ever actually help, or does he just kind of stand around and make vague comments? This is twice in a row.
That's helping.
I guess. I mean,
he's giving her hints and clues without,
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
giving her the answers.
But it seems like answers would be more helpful.
Right.
I don't know.
But,
Just a thought.
they're trying to keep him mysterious at this point. And
sure.
do you know about Angel from what you've heard or what you know about Buffy? Do you know anything at all?
Nope.
Nothing. You know nothing about him?
Nope.
Okay, then never mind. I'm not going to say anything then.
I know he's played by Bones. His name is Bones. Fight me.
I think that the girl
Emily
was...
Deschanel?
Yeah. I
No,
think she
she's
was
Lady
Bones.
Bones.
Oh my gosh.
I've never seen that show either.
Oh, I've seen like the first couple of seasons. It's pretty good. Maybe we can do that one day.
My parents watched it once, I think. Anywho. Yeah. So going through like in order, as you were talking about the Earth is older than you think kind of deal. My first thought, always the smart ass, my first thought was, I don't know, a couple billion years old is pretty old. But anywho.
It's older than that, according to Giles.
Apparently.
And demons walked the earth.
Yeah, so I like that they kind of subtly dropped the whole, like, ancient ones or old ones or whatever he said. I think he said the old ones or something like that. And gave you a brief overview of the introduction of, like, the old ones and how we got to vampires being what's left.
Yeah.
So all the old ones are gone. Did he say if they die or if they just went away? Or like, went to ground or whatever?
I don't think he specifies. He just talks about how like
the last
the first
one
vampire, the first vampire how we know the vampire like bit someone and bit another and another until they walked the earth and waited for the old ones to return or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think he specified where the old ones went.
Sure,
if
they're just not around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's cool getting a little bit of, I mean, it's a little snippet, but it's cool getting a little bit of that backstory, that lore, whatever, that gives them a scaffolding to start building on, which is always cool to have happen so early. I'm a big sucker for world building and lore and all of those little bits and pieces that go towards making it feel more real and fleshed out and not just a setting and some things that we say just for story's sake. Like, the more detail, the more stuff, the better. I always like that. So it's cool that it's happening so early. And this may just be because there wasn't the situation for me to notice it in the first episode, but did their eyes glow in the dark in the first episode?
Yes.
They did?
Oh, in the first episode, I don't know if there was a situation for us to notice that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know. I didn't notice in the first episode. I noticed it in the second, but I can't think of another episode where they do that.
Really?
Not that it doesn't happen.
I just don't remember.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
Yeah, I immediately noticed that, and my first thought was maybe they filmed the first episode and like that fight scene where it ends, and then they did pickup shots later to finish it after they got, picked up by a network or whatever.
Yeah. I know they did go back and refilm some stuff, at least for the first episode, maybe for the second one as well. Yeah. Later in the season when they had time to like look at everything and review everything before they released it.
That would make sense because it didn't seem like a drastic change or difference, but I feel like I noticed a slight increase in production, like
in this episode versus the first one.
The eyes glowing, the lighting seemed a little bit better. It seemed like this one just kind of looked just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Overall, I don't know. So which got me thinking. It kind of got me looking a little bit closer at their makeup and prosthetics and all of that. And I noticed when the master was talking, he has his S's are really breathy.
Yeah.
And then I noticed they're wearing false teeth, to
Yeah,
give them the
they're-
super
yeah.
sharp teeth and then their fangs and all that. And I wondered, now I'm going to keep on the lookout for a bunch of them making those like weird breathy S's because they're wearing false teeth.
Yeah. And I know, especially in the beginning when they had like a more limited budget or whatever, I think you notice it more as time goes on and they have more money to devote to things. They, because I don't think those were molded for each person's mouth or whatever.
They're like vampire teeth you buy from the store.
Sure.
Maybe not as bad.
Right.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, they, I think they specifically would make teeth for the specific actor who needed them.
They take a cast.
If they were speaking, if they were going to speak, they would do that. So it gets better. I'll say that. But yeah, you do notice that they do have a little bit of a hard time speaking.
Yeah. It wasn't distracting though. It was it was just noticeable.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to look a little bit closer at the Master's makeup and like I know they all have the like ugly vampire face and all that and the very stark cheekbones and raised, like they look very gaunt. His is much more wrinkly and like
because he's very old.
Yeah, well, I mean, I figured there was a specific reason.
Yeah, that's why he looks so, like,
warped.
More grotesque and warped than the others because of how old he is.
I figured it was mostly just as a visual distinction between him and the younger ones. I guess we don't really know how old Luke is, but clearly the Master is the oldest by far.
Yeah.
But yeah. I thought it was kind of neat. It was cool. I mean, he's super ugly, but it's easy to make something ugly that's not interesting to look at. It's hard to make something ugly that's also interesting to look at. Like it's not off-putting, but it's still ugly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job. Like the Master looks grotesque and very like ugly and gross, but just like he's not quite off-putting, like it doesn't make you like but yeah, I thought it was kind of neat. Okay, story-wise, I liked how it seemed more serious in tone in most places than the first episode. I think the first one, by necessity, was a little bit more lighthearted and, just kind of jokey
dipping your toes
and
in.
Just kind of easing you into the whole thing, and then they jump in and vampires, now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
And this one is just like, hey, vampires, we're doing this. And there's not a lot of like stop to make a joke or pauses in the action that feel unnatural at all. Like there's comments here and there, clearly, but it seemed to me a lot more like driving to the point of like, hey, the harvest is happening, we're here to stop it.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing, and not like, hey, jokey time. you know?
One of the things, because like Xander kind of does, kind of like it's not like a joke, but whenever they get back and from trying to find Jesse and realize that he's been made into a vampire, and Xander's pissed and he like kicks the trash can.
Yeah.
And he, does a little like quick quip or whatever, and he's like, what does he say? Something like, I'm gonna go out on a limb.
Here, I'm
Vampires
taking a stand.
are bad. Yeah.
Vampires are bad.
That's, it's kind of funny, but it also at the same time
It's believable.
it's like, when you make jokes when things are bad, like that's kind of how I took that and everything. And it was like, how he did it was like really, it was really good. It was perfectly timed, and the tone in his voice and everything.
He wasn't looking to get laughs.
Right.
That's just part of who he is. Like,
just like little like sarcastic comments and stuff like that.
Yeah. He seems like he's that kind of person who very much relies on humor to make the world easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But yeah, I definitely did notice that, and I like that. Like, it seemed, I know we're only 2 episodes in, but I mean, it seemed very true to his character that we've seen so far, and it didn't feel forced or anything like that. Like, it made me care more about him because it was believable, and we don't really see him and Jesse being such close friends, but his reaction to that after him saying, like, we were really good friends or whatever, makes me believe that and makes me feel for him more, and, like, his emotions and his whole process and all of that, and, like, mentally going through everything feels a lot more authentic. And it's cool because it's hard, like, those jokey kind of clown characters are hard to get right sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes they're a little bit too, like, they're too jokey and they can become kind of grating, and you don't take them too seriously, and when they need them to be serious, it doesn't land.
Yeah.
Or the exact opposite, they're always jokey and all of that, but when they get serious, then it's like, oh shit, this guy is not joking anymore, something must be bad. But I think I think they found a good mix with him in this so far, at least. Willow is the same kind of way in this one. She's just, like, completely exasperated and has no idea what is going on. And I think she says, like, I need to sit down. And Buffy looks at her and says, you are sitting. She said, oh, good for me. Like, she's also got a kind of similar type of humor, but not nearly as jokey, like, hey, look at me. It's more just very dry, witty.
Yeah.
But that still comes through even when she's, like, completely spaced. And I don't know, it makes it seem more serious, and I like that. Like, obviously there's going to be jokes and funny bits and stuff here and there, but I like a healthy balance. Like, if something's more one than the other too much, it gets to be kind of annoying to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Because this is, I don't think anybody would try or describe this show to anybody else as a comedy.
No.
It's got funny bits.
Yeah.
But it's mostly serious.
Yes.
It's
amazing. I'm not biased.
Even Giles was nowhere near as, like,
stuffy.
Super excited to be the Watcher. He's like, okay, we're working now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like where it's going. I like the tone. I like, getting into it and all that, and I'm excited for the first, like, big arc. I mean, obviously this is just the introductory stuff, but they're clearly leading up to more stuff, like more big stories happening. So it's cool. Jesse's gone now because he dies.
Yes.
So this is the wrap up of his whole, like, pulling the rug out from under you. Like, this guy's familiar. You expected him to be something, but he's not. So that's kind of cool. I had another thought, and it just.
Here's something interesting. This guy right here did not know that it was only a wooden stake to the heart. Because when Buffy picks up, like, what was it, like a music stand or something? Some piece of metal, and Luke says, "Oh, metal can't hurt me," and he's like, "Why would metal hurt him?" I was like, "Well, a sword could, like, chop his head off and it hurt him. It'd kill him that way."
That was my first thought.
And I was like, "But it has to be a wooden stake through the heart," and he didn't. He said that he has never heard that it had to be wood. I've always heard it had to be wood.
I may have heard that, but I always assumed most vampire stories are old stories that they're based on. So I don't think I've ever heard any vampire stuff where it's specifically written out that it has to be wood. It just usually is wood because it's easier to make a stake than... I'm sure there's plenty of vampire movies or TV shows where it's not always wood.
Where the stake to the heart is not wood?
I'm sure it happens. I mean, Blade, he uses his sword.
To the heart?
Yeah, he cuts them into pieces all the time. Like, that's his main weapon.
Cuts into pieces. But he doesn't...
Well, but they still die. So metal can hurt them in Blade. Or metal can kill them in Blade. And just like you said, like...
It's been a while since I watched Blade. Beheading definitely kills them.
Well, and it was the phrasing that stuck with me. He said, metal can't hurt me. which is
Well, but she can't
completely not true.
She can't behead him with
A stake.
a stand, like a music stand or whatever it is that she was holding.
I understand that. I mean, I get what you're saying there. It was the way he said it, not what she was holding and the consequences of that. It was metal can't hurt me. That put my mind thinking in that, like, yeah, it can. You're still made of flesh and bones. Like,
yeah, I mean, it can hurt him. It just can't, like,
I mean, it's like saying
and it won't,
you
like,
couldn't
take
be
him out
crushed
for
by
long.
a car. You absolutely could.
It wouldn't take him out for very long.
Yeah, he would bounce back.
Yeah.
And that's, But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll have to go back and watch some other stuff and pay more attention.
Y'all comment below if y'all knew, if y'all...
Yeah, maybe I'm just dumb. Call me out.
If y'all thought what I thought and it's always been wood, or if you didn't know, like this guy, and thought any kind of steak would do. I want to know.
I'm going to refer to it as the blade defense. He uses... No, okay, so I'm remembering, though, I think there's something special about his sword. It's, like, garlic infused or some nonsense like that.
Like in the movie or the comic?
The movie.
Okay. I haven't seen the movie or read the comic, so that question was silly, I guess.
I mean...
But not really, because you may have read the comics. He reads comics a lot, so...
I mean,
he very well may have read it and knows things that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read it in years. I haven't read Blade, like, in comics since I was a little kid. And Blade hasn't... I mean, Blade has been more popular in the comics recently. He's in the Avengers, and there's a whole arc about vampires, and it's so good. They have a vampire civil war, and it's amazing. There's a little baby version of Man-Thing, and it sits on this vampire's shoulder, and it's so adorable. Anywho. I think they call him Boy Thing or something like that. It's great. And he makes an endless supply of steaks for this Gatling gun. We're completely off topic. We told you this happens.
Yes.
Whatever. So, we're up to the point where Luke and everybody, they're in the bronze. I guess going back a little bit, they're talking about, they're in the library and just kind of all coming to terms with, this is our life now, this is all actually happening. And then they're trying to figure out, like, what their next move is, and that's when Xander says, the bronze. They're going to the bronze, and I think he says, like, where else are they going to find all these young morsels or something, some, like, weird comment like that. And then, flash forward, now we're with, Luke is on stage and chomps down on the doorman, and starts, the line of, next, I need more, or whatever. And then she throws the stand or whatever it is and psychs him out into thinking the sun is shining, which it's nighttime. It's nighttime. The sun is not out at night.
No.
Very bright, is he?
He probably just got, like you said, just psyched out and like, oh man, maybe
she's spooked and good.
Maybe we've been here for hours.
That's when I get fuzzy. I know Luke dies, but I don't remember specifically how he dies. I remember how Jesse dies, which is hilarious.
I know I know she kills him, but I don't remember if we just watched it too.
Yeah, well, and that was what was weird to me was 2 or 3 minutes later, I had that thought, like, I don't remember how he dies. Like, it wasn't very stand out to me. It was just kind of, and that also happened. I remember Jesse's death way more, because it was, they were kind of having a moment where he does the stereotypical, I know there's still good in you, or I know you're still in there, or whatever, after being told by multiple people, he's dead, he's a vampire, what you see is the vampire, the thing that killed him, or whatever, and then, tries to appeal to his humanity and all that, and clearly it doesn't work. Goes to the whole, like, I'm gonna do it, and then chickens out, or, freezes up.
Him.
Yeah. And then somebody runs by and bumps him into the stake, and it's freaking hilarious. And I'm sure Xander is mortified in that moment, which is why it's not really played for laughs, but I thought it was hilarious because, oh my god, that's so dumb, and I love it. The mundanity of that kind of death is just perfect.
Tell him about your favorite part where she threw the symbol.
Oh, yeah. So, okay.
He hates it.
It's only because it so clearly shows the wing nut on top of the symbol that keeps it affixed to its stand, and then she just doesn't take the wing nut off or anything. Clearly, it would take too damn long. I know why they did it.
Well, she's strong, so maybe she just broke it off.
Just hulked it
Slayer
out.
strength.
Yeah. And then it does the, like, camera mounted to the spinning thing. Oh my god, it's so
He's
dumb.
like, that's not how that works at all.
Yeah. That's not how any of this works.
It was funny.
Yeah.
I laughed.
There's a couple moments, like there's a spot where they're in the alley making their way into the bronze, I think, where she goes to stake somebody, and then they kind of slow down for a split second, and then there's there's a cutaway shot to just her holding the stake, and then it cuts right back to the action of her like starting to swing it, and it's one of those like
in this episode.
Yeah, and it's one of those. It's a TV thing that pretty much only happens in TV and movies too, but like to just establish, hey, this is what you need to focus on. This is what's important. This isn't just a random fight scene. Like establishing like, hey, she's about to start staking people. Pay attention to this.
Okay.
And it was just, it's the way it's done sometimes that's jarring. If you know what's happening, you know why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. But it's just catching it. You're like, well, that's weird. They're taking way too long. It's like the first swing in a fight scene sometimes is always like, Hah! Like, nobody takes 4 seconds to throw a punch.
Yeah.
But sometimes they have to slow it down so that it's easier to watch and it's not so, like, jarring or jerky or whatever.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an odd, a very TV moment. I liked how this episode gave you the first, like, this is a core group of the team or whatever, and this is how they get to work together really for the first time, and not their, disparate different places where they end up together by the end of the first episode. They start together at the beginning of this episode, and Willow and Giles are kind of on their own for a little bit in the middle there, but then they all team back up at the end. And it's cool because I like they do a good job of making them all work well together and having their own dynamic, and you get to see them be a little goofy in the first episode. You get to see them a lot more serious in this episode, and they work both ways. And at the end of the episode, they go back to that like dumb, lighthearted kind of send off or whatever. And
love it.
She makes some joke. I can't even remember what it is, but Giles turns and looks like off in the distance or whatever as they walk away, and just goes, "Oh, we're doomed," or something like that.
The Earth is doomed.
Yes, the Earth is doomed.
The Earth is doomed.
Yeah, overall, I liked it. Like, it seems like they do a good job of keeping it it never gets so serious that it gets too wrapped up in itself or too self-serious, but it never gets, like, the comedy or the little bits of punctuation here and there are never so much that it takes you out of it. They keep the pace very quick, and like there's a little moment and then they keep moving on.
Yeah.
Like it feels more it feels TV natural. Like, obviously it's not real life natural because it's extra heightened, but it feels nice and familiar and comfortable TV show wise.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure has a lot to do with why so many people like it, because one, it kind of subverts a lot of norms and that kind of thing, but it also feels very comfortable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of similar archetypes who are just a little out of that mold that they're interesting.
Yeah. And that's, because you don't really, like, the main group of people on the show don't really fall into, like, your typical, like, high school cliques or whatever. Like, they're their own thing. And they could easily gravitate towards specific cliques or whatever. Like, you were saying
Oh, yeah. I thought Xander he would probably fit in like stoner skater kids or whatever,
Yeah.
just from his general demeanor and how he dresses and behavior and all of that. But
Yeah.
you also said like he's not really
I
a
was
stoner.
like, but he's not really a stoner.
It's a TV show. He's not going to be a stoner. But
I mean, there was a stoner dude in the. Well, we didn't see him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm assuming he was a stoner dude.
He could have been a surfer dude. They're in Southern California.
That's true. Maybe he
They're
was a surfer
different
dude.
groups.
Well, but I always think that's so funny that like Cordelia is telling Harmony this story about how Buffy attacked her while they're in like their computer class or whatever, and this random dude
what
comes out of nowhere. Like, why is Cordelia even like entertaining talking to him?
And that's another TV moment.
Maybe it's just because she's so excited to tell everybody like what happened to her, what Buffy did to her at the Bronze or whatever. Like maybe that's part of it, but I always just think that's funny that Cordelia was all like, "Oh yeah, let me tell you the story," to the guy.
I mean, there's a lot of evidence to her being extremely wrapped up in herself.
Oh yes.
There's even with her friends, and so she sits down and is talking to her friends about like how senior boys are the best or whatever. And one of them I think she gets 2 words out, and she goes, "Excuse me, can I get a word in
she called her like
or
Miss
something?"
Motormouth or something.
Yeah. Like she's just completely wrapped up in herself and conceited and arrogant or whatever, and she sucks and she's the worst. But
I like her.
I mean, I say that I don't hate her character. I would hate her if she were a real person that I knew. Because she sucks and she's the worst. But,
she's pretty bad.
Willow's little, like, they're doing their little programming thing in computer class or whatever.
She's like,
how do you
say
it?
it?
She hits deliver, and it shows the delete key, and yeah.
I always laugh at that.
Yeah. It's a nice little, like...
And then her face when everything goes away. She's just like... I love it.
Yeah. So, okay, there was another little character moment with Xander that it irks me because he should be smarter than this, but that's kind of one of the points of his character. I'm sure he gets smarter and better over time and like grows into, gets more confident in himself and all that, but like it seems very much to me that he is, like, one of his defining character traits is that he is not confident in himself at all. And he puts on that, like, like, jokey, like hey, haha, it's some false bravado to, like, show off to the world, like, oh, I am totally confident, but they come back from the mausoleum where they fight Luke and everything, and they get back and they're having their moment, and he's upset with Buffy that he's not the one who's gonna like take charge and be the big strong man and go and fight all these vampires.
I don't think he wants to take charge. I think he just wants to go with her and help get his friend back.
Well, okay, yes, yes. It's not that he's not the one in charge. It's more that
she doesn't want him to go.
She's done this before. She knows what she's doing. She's clearly more capable and more prepared and more knowledgeable. And it seems like he almost takes that as a personal insult that he can't do that for his friend. Like, he can't be that person.
Yeah.
And I took that as him being that's an aspect of him being kind of insecure.
Yes.
And I wish I were this person. She can do this seemingly effortlessly. Why can't I do this? I'm upset with myself that I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get upset and put on a, get kind of stompy, but not like really bad.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting because it seems very believable. But that's one of those things that I really hope he grows out of because that's dumb. That's stupid.
Yeah. And I will say that he is young.
Yeah, I'm sure
he's
had
a high school kid.
bunch of dumb
And-
self-images when I was a kid.
You know, I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler for you, for people that haven't really seen the show.
No.
But right now, especially nowadays, there's a lot of people that do not like Xander. I'm not one of those people.
Nowadays,
Yes.
What? Why? That's dumb.
No,
they're wrong. They're wrong and they're dumb and they're wrong. Xander's great.
I mean, I like Xander. He does grow. But, you know, he does, especially in this first season, have, you know, this kind of like attitude where he wants to be in on the action and everything like that. And he's not using his brain.
Yeah, that's very clear. He doesn't think first.
Right. He doesn't think first. He just wants. I don't want to give away things that happen later on.
Well, then don't.
I won't. But I will
I
say.
can close my ears if you want to say something.
No, because what if people are
have to
watching
edit it
along
later,
with
too.
us?
Well,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I'd hear it eventually, one way or the other.
No, like, there are certain aspects of his character that can be considered problematic. This is kind of showing you some of those aspects where he, you know, doesn't listen to someone who knows what they're doing and feels like he should also participate. And some people feel that it's because he's a guy and Buffy's a girl. So he should.
I could see that.
As a man, he should be able to go and take care of this and help save his friend.
Wait, so they don't like him because they think he's like.
I mean, there's.
Like a pansy or something, or
no, they don't think he's a pansy.
Okay, why?
They just think he's toxic, like toxic masculinity.
Oh, because he thinks that he should be able to.
Yes.
It was made 23 years ago. I would like to think we've progressed as a society, but what I'm getting at is like, so I work at a school, and by and large, cliques aren't really a thing anymore. Like, the way that age of kids behave and are in general now is different in a lot of ways. I mean, they still very much have the same kind of things that they do because they're still, you know, preteen or teenagers and, you know, figuring themselves out and all that, but it's different now. But with the advent of and the popularity of the internet and all of that, and just like being exposed to so much more and so many different kinds of people, I think that's kind of whittled away those clear definitions of different cliques and that kind of thing, and has opened people's minds to why some of those social mores and social norms or whatever are dumb and stupid.
Yeah.
And just because you know there was more of that in the past, and this thing was created in the past, and it doesn't change over time because that's not how things work. You create something and it is what it is, and you don't go back and change it every single year to update.
Right.
Like, that's a dumb opinion to have, because that'd be like saying I don't like Shakespeare because the language is weird. Like, they spoke different than us back then.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying, but then there's also a point to argue where just because that's how it was in the past doesn't mean it was correct or
sure.
right.
Right. But I mean, no interesting character starts out perfect.
Right, and that's the thing. Perfect characters are not interesting.
No, they're crazy boring because they have
interesting.
nowhere to go. They can't learn anything. They can't develop.
And
even Buffy has lessons to learn clearly.
Yes, for sure. And, you know, all the Xander haters out there, it it annoys me just because it's almost like they expect writers to write characters that have no flaws. And I mean,
or they just want them to be a more self-actualized version of themselves way too early.
And that takes time. And I feel like over time he does grow. And we'll see that, and we can revisit this conversation and talk about it because it is a hot topic.
I'm sure it'll come up naturally.
And I'm a murderino. I listen to My Favorite Murder. I'm in like a crap ton of Facebook spin-offs, and one of them is Slayerinos, and I swear there are at least 5 posts a day that talk about how much people hate Xander. And so it's a hot topic, and at least right now. And as time goes on, we can come back and revisit this because I do see the points that they're trying to make, but I don't hate his character. I don't hate Xander.
I mean, I get that, like the whole like he's a guy, she's a girl, he should be whatever they're saying.
And that's just like the tip of the iceberg of some of their points and stuff.
Obviously,
like,
I don't
obviously
know
I
the
can't
depth
go
of it.
into a lot of it right now just because.
Sure.
But this is kind of like, this is a good introduction into why people see him as problematic.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, you could say the same thing, I guess, similar for like their portrayal of Willow's type of character. Like, she's just a meek little nerd and all that. Like, it's too easy it's so easy to portray those kind of characters as a very hard and fast stereotype, but that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to become or that there isn't more there. That's just, more often than not, that's just all you're choosing to see.
Yeah.
And I think that usually speaks more to the person who has those opinions about that character than somebody who's willing to see and understand different points of view or see and analyze their whole character arc or their whole journey and development and where they start and where they become and why those changes were what they decided on and what makes that interesting. And like while you were talking about like why people don't like Xander, I was thinking about Civil War, the Marvel or Captain America Civil War. Like, there's plenty of people on both sides, but the way
You're on opposite sides, by the way. We get into
Cap is wrong. Fight me. We
get into the worst arguments over this stupid movie. It's not a stupid movie. It's a very good movie. But you get what I'm saying. Like,
the way Cap or the way Iron Man is portrayed in that movie is he's almost made out to be an overt bad guy, but not quite to that point. Like, he's the one who causes Ultron and
you'll see when you edit. You can like put the little caption in.
Yeah. They play him off of Cap in a very specific way to not make him necessarily seem like the bad guy, but he's set up to be the one who's going directly against Steve. And a lot of it seems like his decisions are for selfish reasons or he's being a hypocrite or whatever. But when you take a couple steps back and look at the bigger picture, that's a massive step in his character development. And that's like his whole starting to understand that the world doesn't revolve around him, but he doesn't know how to deal with that yet. And he's got a lot of anger and other things going on and a lot of other issues that he has to deal with, but it's too easy to just say, oh, he's causing this problem, he's who split them up or whatever.
No, I don't think.
Oh, I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying I've heard that from lots of people.
Oh, okay.
And clearly, it's because it's on purpose because the movie needs that kind of close to home division in the team.
Yeah.
It's manufactured to a certain degree because it has to be. If they all got along like the super best friends, where the hell's the story in that? Like, there has to be some division and antagonism between those two. Otherwise, there's not a story, but if there isn't, even past there not being a story, the characters aren't interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I was about to say, who wants to watch a movie or 2.5 hours of Cap and Iron Man getting along as super best friends? I would watch that all day. But that's not a good movie. That's not good storytelling. That's not really that interesting. That's just great fanboy fodder. I'm done.
Okay.
That's it.
Wh-
There
What
wasn't
was
a point.
your point? Okay.
There wasn't one. Just, hey, there's also this thing. I don't always have a point.
He probably started out with one,
Probably.
but then through talking, things
I don't know where
devolved. But yeah, I'm excited. We got the first 2 episodes out of the way. I feel like those were kind of like a 2-parter.
Yeah, it's
For
very much
sure.
one single story in 2 parts.
So
Which is fine.
So now, like, we'll get into more monsters. Because first season's pretty much, I mean, there is like an underlying story, but it's pretty much Monster of the Week.
Which is totally cool. I mean, that was one of my favorite parts. Completely different show, I understand. That was one of my favorite things about early X-Files was the Monster of the Weakness about it. And then they got into the overarching story, you know, season long story arcs and all that kind of stuff. But I'm a sucker for a good Monster of the Week story. Like, get at me all day. I would
all day.
I'm not a big TV watcher, but a good Monster of the Week with a nice like setup and group of people that are, you know, running into crazy nonsense. Yeah. That sounds great. It's basically like Scooby-Doo for grown-ups, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a long story arc to Scooby-Doo at all. It's just them, like, going to some other haunted amusement park that's not haunted and it's always an amusement park. Why is it always an amusement park? And it's always Old Man Withers or whoever. Scooby-Doo is weird.
There is, side note, there's an episode of Supernatural where Supernatural and Scooby-Doo come together.
Oh my god.
And it's a cartoon. It's amazing. I'm gonna make him watch that next.
How does that even work? That I've seen just you watching a couple episodes of that show, and I can see that actually working pretty well in there. That show is pretty freewheeling. Like, it's kind of all over the place.
It's a good show. This
in
is
a
their
planned way.
They're filming their last season. They're finishing it up.
Yeah, how the hell is it still going?
Because it's freaking good.
Wasn't that one? It was planned for 3 seasons or something like that, and it was so popular that they were like, "We're done with our story." They're like, "Yeah, but
I think that makes sense
for
because
4 more seasons."
I feel like there's definitely like an end to like their story.
Yeah.
And then they were able to like keep it going or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had read
But it's
that
really good.
They had a story to tell, they finished it, and they kept getting renewed, and they were like, I guess we'll keep making them.
I mean, I am like 2 seasons behind.
I can never remember their names.
Sam and Dean.
Yeah, I remember one of them's name is Dean, and I always want to say Hank and Dean because I've watched too much Venture Brothers. Which just got canceled, by the way, and I'm devastated.
Wow.
Because it was always there. It might have taken 3 years between seasons, but it always came back, and now it's not.
It's okay.
Anywho.
We should wrap
We've gone on so many weird tangents. I mean, this episode was just kind of following up on the first episode. There wasn't a lot of new content to really, like, get your, you know, like sink your teeth into, get
Yeah.
your hands around. I don't
Yeah.
know what metaphor I was going with there, but anywho, we're done.